Yeah, it's pretty good. I know I'm pretty late to this since this game came out quite a while ago and all the negative stuff is pretty well known by now, but I just want to get out my own personal thoughts on this since I don't think it's as bad as people made it out to be. Jesus Christ, Twitter is a mess. So I played this game on release, on stream, and for those of you wondering, yes, I do stream on Twitch. I rarely stream there, but I do plan to do it more often in the future, and I usually stream Smash Ultimate stuff or other games if I'm in the mood. So if you want to see more of me or play with me, you can follow me on Twitch. I'll leave a link on screen and in the description below. So like I said before, I played this game on release on my stream and I tried out all 3 games, and I did notice that some games were ported better than others. And I just want to talk about each game specifically, as well as talk about any other common criticisms people gave this collection. Let's start with the menu, the first thing you'll see when you start up the game. Already there is criticism here, mostly on how this menu looks bad, or it could have looked better, and I have to ask, who cares? Like, there's no such thing as a perfect menu interface. Any menu interface can be criticized. I feel like this is the wrong thing to complain about. If the menu was somehow objectively perfect, would that make this collection worth it? I feel like this is something being criticized for the sake of being criticized, since people were starting to get really upset with how this collection was looking, so they just want to add more things to complain about. As long as the game itself is good, I don't care about the menu. Speaking of games, let's dive into the first game, Mario 64. This is personally one of my favorite games of all time, mostly through its controls. This game has the best controls I have ever felt in any video game ever, and 3D All-Stars has most definitely retained all these amazing controls. Now, there has been some small modifications to this game, one of them being the removal of the backwards long jump, BLJ for short. This wasn't essential to the actual game, it was just more of an exploit abused by speedrunners to avoid a bunch of obstacles, and this was completely patched out, which was an odd choice by Nintendo for them to go out of their way to remove this. But for me, it was just kind of like, you know, whatever, I can play the game without it. This wasn't essential to the actual game. I'm sure someone out there is probably going to find something else anyways. Some other changes include Mario's voice. I did notice that he had a completely different line while jumping. It was more high-pitched at times. And of course, when throwing Bowser, his famous line gets replaced with yeah, it's gone entirely. Anyways, other changes I found were some visual updates and performance updates as well. The icons and text look a lot cleaner than before, and I did notice the game runs perfectly in water. I remember playing this game on my Nintendo 64, and the game would drop frames whenever I entered water in Jolly Roger Bay or Dire Dire Docks. I don't know if this was just me or if anyone else encountered this. However, in 3D All-Stars, no frames were dropped when I entered these huge bodies of water, which is very convenient for me. But one thing I found weird was controlling the camera, since the Nintendo 64 controller had these seat buttons on the side. So translating button controls to an analog stick is a bit weird. You can't just hold right on the stick to constantly turn the camera to the right. You gotta repeatedly flick right because, you know, it used to be buttons. So you gotta like function the stick as if it was buttons. But something like this doesn't completely ruin the experience for me. Overall, Mario 64 has retained what made it a special game for me, and it was as good as I remembered. Next is Mario Sunshine, and this is where I was initially disappointed. You see, you can use a GameCube controller for Switch games, and I tried it here. And yes, it does work, but the controls are mapped differently. The controls are mapped to be convenient on a Switch controller. So on a Switch controller, you can press A or B to jump, X to switch your nozzle, and Y to dive and grab. This doesn't translate well on a GameCube controller. Using Y to dive on that controller is weird, and pressing B to jump on this controller is just off to me. But this isn't the worst part. The worst part is using FLUDD. Like I said before, this collection was designed around the Switch controller, and originally FLUDD's water squirt was determined by how much you pressed R on a GameCube controller, because the triggers were like actual triggers, it wasn't just flat buttons. So, lightly pressing R allowed you to not only spray less, but Mario can walk at the same time. Pressing R all the way down shot at full power and Mario didn't move, allowing you to aim with the stick. This worked nicely, but here on this collection, since it was redesigned around the Switch controller, it utilized its 2 triggers to determine the strength of FLUDD's water. Pressing ZR was the light squirt where you can walk and shoot, and pressing R was where Mario stood still and could aim. For some bullshit ass reason, since the GameCube controller had the exact same controls as the Switch controller, this meant that pressing R was the light squirt, and Z, yes, I'm Canadian, we say Z here, is the hard squirt. They didn't make it like the original, so playing Sunshine in 3D All-Stars with a GameCube controller was a disaster. I heard you can go into the Switch settings to change the controls to adjust, but that still won't fix the flood issue. I just had to get used to the Switch controls, because there was no way I was going to use a GameCube controller for this. Oh yeah, and another note, when aiming with flood, they decided to invert the controls. Again. In other words, you press up to aim up, and down to aim down. That makes perfect sense, don't get me wrong. But originally, you would press up to aim down and down to aim up. I was a weird kid who actually got used to this, but here it threw me off because they inverted controls. Yet another thing I had to get used to. Overall, it sucks that Mario Sunshine's controls are a bit funky, especially due to the fact that they couldn't adjust for GameCube controllers since the game, you know, originally came out on the GameCube. And even though I love playing this game and I'm happy to get to play it again on modern hardware and in widescreen, it does suck that Sunshine's potential here just kinda got wasted. It was a tolerable experience to me. Oh yeah, on a completely random topic, someone showed me that a melody in Delfino Plaza sounded exactly like a melody from the Motel 6 song. Yeah, that one section kinda does sound exactly the same. Apparently this is old news if you dig deep enough. And now for the third and last game here, Mario Galaxy. This is the one I was most worried about because I didn't know how they were going to transfer the Wii motion control onto the Switch since there is no sensor bar. But I think they did a great job here. How it works is that you press R on your controller, and wherever you pointed your controller at when you pressed R is where your sensor bar is. So you could literally point your controller at a random wall in your house, press R, and that wall will act as your sensor bar. It's a very nice substitution of controls. They also implemented a way to spin without the need to shake your controller. You can still shake, but they added a feature where you can just press Y to spin, which is a very nice addition. I was even told to use Joy-Cons for this game to really emulate the feeling of using a Wiimote and a nunchuck. And to be honest, as someone who absolutely hates Joy-Con controllers due to how stiff the sticks are and how small it is, I've got big hands, that's why, it does emulate the feeling quite nicely. Overall, Mario Galaxy got its controls translated nicely, unlike Mario Sunshine. There's not really much else to say for this particular game since they didn't really add or take away anything. The only thing really are the controls, and like I said, they did a good job here. So that's pretty much what you can expect if you play this collection. Other than these minor changes and adjustments, they're the exact same games as before. I mean, even the glitches and exploits are still present. I can understand the disappointment that comes with this. I know people felt like they weren't getting what they were paying for, which is $60. People felt that Nintendo could have done a much better job with this collection instead of just literal emulations bundled into a single cartridge. I also don't understand why this is limited since it just kind of pressures people into buying it even if they don't really want it. And I know people are upset that Nintendo put an effort to make Sunshine widescreen but left Mario 64 as it is. I also think Mario Galaxy 2 being excluded was a bad move. That game deserves to be part of this collection, and I feel if Galaxy 2 was included, the $60 price tag would have been much more acceptable. However, I don't want to see this collection as just some lazy money-grabbing move by Nintendo to exploit our nostalgia. The way I see it is this is an opportunity for an entire new generation of people to experience old games, to either relive their childhood or to experience it for the very first time if they never got that opportunity in their past. If you don't like this collection, you don't have to buy it. Simple as that. But someone like me, personally, I loved playing all 3 games. I 100% completed them multiple times as a kid and I loved it every single time. And I'm happy I get to play it again on modern hardware, especially something like Mario Galaxy, because now I don't have to get 2 AA batteries for my Wiimote and set up that stupid sensor bar every time I want to play it. Well, that pretty much wraps up this video. This is my first time doing a video like this, so let me know if you guys enjoyed it or not. That's gonna be it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I got nothing more to say, so I guess I'll see you guys next time.